At San Francisco International Airport, in the dead of night, 4 passenger-filled aircraft were waiting their turn to take off. Suddenly, they noticed another plane rapidly approaching, asking ATC for landing permission. ATC granted the permission. Initially, the pilots of the 4 planes thought it might be a misunderstanding, assuming the incoming aircraft would align itself with the empty runway. However, that was not the case. The landing plane was heading straight toward them. Welcome back to ARH Mystery Unveiled videos, dear viewers. This horrifying incident is not very old. On July 7, 2017, Air Canada flight ACA 759 took off from Toronto Pearson International Airport with 135 passengers and 5 crew members. This was a routine flight expected to land at San Francisco International Airport in 5 hours and 30 minutes. Both pilots were very experienced and had landed at San Francisco Airport many times before. However, today was different, and this day was about to become a landmark case in the aviation industry. The journey was smooth, and as Air Canada 759 approached San Francisco, they began preparing for landing, waiting for permission from the air traffic control tower. San Francisco Airport has 4 runways, but only 2 can be operated at a time. If the wind is coming from the south, these 2 runways are open for landing and takeoff. And if the wind is from the west, then the other 2 runways are used. It's a known fact that planes take off or land against the wind. On this day, the wind was coming from the west, so one of these runways, named 28L and 28R, 28 left and right, was to be used. Everything was normal until now, but things started to go wrong. Runway 28L was closed for maintenance, and its lights were off. The control tower gave Air Canada 759 permission to land on the adjacent runway, 28R. Because the pilots had landed at this airport many times before, they expected to see 2 parallel lights and land on the right one. But here was their first mistake. The taxiways beside these runways are marked with green lights. After loading passengers, planes reached the runway through these taxiways. However, due to the darkness, the pilots mistook the taxiway lights for 28R and the actual 28R lights for 28L. But an even bigger danger was unknown to the pilots. 4 fully loaded planes were waiting on the right taxiway to take off. 3 United Airlines planes and 1 Philippine Airlines plane, with more than 1,000 passengers in total, and fully loaded with fuel. The distance between runway 28R and the taxiway is only 100 meters. When Air Canada 759 aligned itself with the taxiway, it was difficult for the distant control tower to judge where they were actually landing. The crucial question arises: if runway maintenance is normal, why wasn't this information given to the Air Canada 759 pilots? If they had known, this confusion would not have occurred. The information about runway 28L's closure was mentioned in NOTAMs, Notices to Air Missions, which detail all information from takeoff to landing. However, it's not easy to pinpoint important notices among them. So the notice about 28L's closure was missed, which was their second big mistake. Air Canada 759 was rapidly approaching the taxiway. The control tower had given them visual approach permission, meaning they had to find the runway and manually line up the aircraft. Typically, when the weather is good, visual approach permission is given. However, due to several past accidents where pilots misjudged and landed incorrectly during visual approaches, most pilots rely on the instrument guidance system even during visual approaches. This system informs the pilot whether they are landing on the correct runway. To activate the system, the runway number must be entered manually. Although modern aircraft automatically activate the guidance system, the Airbus A320 requires manual activation, which the pilots failed to do, their third major mistake. But why were the pilots making one mistake after another? Both pilots had a long day. It was 11:45 p.m., and they hadn't had proper rest for the past 19 hours. These Canadian pilots were subject to less strict fatigue rules compared to the US. While we pointed out 3 mistakes of Air Canada 759's pilots, what about the 4 planes that saw Air Canada heading toward the taxiway but didn't alert the control tower? Everyone knew that during a visual approach at San Francisco Airport, planes must approach slightly from the right, because coming straight over 28R would mean flying over the populated area of Foster City, causing noise pollution. Hence, pilots align themselves with the runway only when they are very close. For the waiting pilots, this was a normal occurrence, so no one reported it. But when Air Canada got even closer and still did not align with 28R, the Philippine Airlines plane turned on its landing lights as a precaution to signal the incoming plane that there were already planes here. Meanwhile, the Air Canada pilots saw some lights on the taxiway they mistook for 28R. Sensing something was wrong, they immediately radioed the control tower. The control tower responded, saying 28R was clear and they had permission to land. The control tower also didn't realize the plane was heading for the taxiway instead of 28R. Typically, another controller monitors ground traffic in such situations. But it was late at night, with less traffic, so only one controller was managing everything. Luckily, the waiting pilots could hear the conversation between Air Canada and the control tower. They were also puzzled as to why Air Canada wasn't aligning with the runway despite being so close. In the last few seconds, the waiting pilots saw their death approaching. They confirmed that Air Canada was mistaking the taxiway for the runway. The leading United Airlines pilot, without mentioning their call sign, urgently messaged the control tower. In response, the control tower immediately instructed Air Canada to go around. By the time Air Canada received the message, they were just a few feet above the 3rd plane in line. Fortunately, they reacted swiftly, pulling the lever to gain altitude. A delay of even 1 more second would have resulted in the worst aviation disaster, with over 1,000 passengers in the parked planes and 135 passengers on Air Canada, all with fully loaded fuel, making control almost impossible. Following this incident, a full investigation was conducted, proving that Air Canada 759's pilots were at fault for not activating the instrument guidance system and not reading the NOTAMs. The National Transportation Safety Board then implemented new rules for San Francisco Airport, stipulating that visual approach permission would not be given when a runway is closed. Additionally, during off-peak hours, both air traffic and ground traffic controllers must be present. I hope you enjoyed this video from ARH Mystery Unveiled. Please like and share, and thank you for your loving comments. See you in the next fantastic video.